Welcome to Rough Drafts, How God Writes His Love in Our Stories, a podcast that explores the faith journeys of our friends and neighbors in Burns, Tennessee. Everyone has a story to tell, and in this podcast, we'll hear powerful and inspiring stories of how God works in the ordinary lives of people like you and me. Our stories are unfinished and perfectly imperfect. They are just rough drafts, a glimpse of what is to come because God is still at work, writing plot twists, introducing new characters, and bringing good even from the most challenging circumstances. Join us as we see what God is up to in our stories. Here's your host, Matthew Hyatt.
When we started this podcast, I thought about some of the people I know that are incredible storytellers. The sort of people that when we have a Halloween party, you'll find people gathered off in a room because they want to hear the stories. And today's guest is one of the people that I thought of first, because I can guarantee you if there's a group of people, he's going to be holding court, telling the stories, and we're going to hope that the statute of limitations is expired on all of the stories. He has been a staple in the Burns community his whole life. He has been in the water business in Dixon for 43 years. An incredible family, amazing wife, kids, grandkids, the whole 9 yards. He's my friend, Mike Chandler. Mike, thanks for coming today.
Thanks for asking.
So, you all right with me calling you a storyteller?
Well, yeah, I guess I'm full of it, so.
Well, full of what? We're not real sure.
I'm not going to say.
Okay. That took 12 seconds into the show before we started to get into trouble. Okay. Well, what's your story? What's your God story, Mike?
Well, I was raised in a household with Primitive Baptists. My grandparents were Primitive Baptists. My granddad was an elder in the church up here, and my grandmother was the secretary. So I was raised in that, and Mama went to that church. So Daddy was always Church Christ. Of course, his family was the one that donated the ground to put the church on.
Yeah.
So they were Church Christ, and all his family was Church Christ. So I guess it was inevitable that I'd gravitate towards it. I really started, I went everywhere all over the South with my grandmother and grandfather, and because they went to association meetings, like our Fifth Sunday, and there's different places: Jacksonville, Florida, Jackson, Mississippi, Auburn, Alabama. Just wherever there was a big group. And I was always in awe of the amount of people that were there, because we had a small church up here. So about 97, I was changing jobs, just going into being a general manager. And it was pretty stressful for me, because I'm not a good boss. I'm a good doer, but not a good point to it and say do that. So I got threatened several times by the board of directors for being down in the ditch one night, and we were fixing a leak, and they said, "What are you doing down there?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to fix a leak." So, "Well, you're supposed to be up here telling them how." I said, "Well, it's a whole lot easier for me to get down there." So but
that earns you a lot of respect with the guys, though.
Well, it does, and I just never did feel like I was anything but one of them, an employee, and which I was. But under quite a bit of stress for that, the children were growing up, leaving to be married and live in their own home, and that's stressful for me to have them moving away. So May had started going up here about 1990, somewhere around in there. And I came with her a few times in the old church, and enjoyed it. It was okay. Didn't really think much. I really just rode the preacher up there, because I told him, I said, y'all singing and music doesn't count for much. I said, I put an extra 20 in the basket so y'all get a guitar or organ or something. He said, "You know better than that."
That's funny.
Primitive Baptists don't have music either.
Right.
They won't allow recorded music in the church. So it was kind of a culture shock to me. And I heard it. Now, it was good. And I thought, well, I can spend an hour a week if it'll make me happy.
That's right.
So she's the one that got me to come up here. And the more I came, the more I learned. And Primitive Baptist, and I'm not knocking them, but they're not a big teaching. They don't have much of a ministry other than you sit down on the old hard bench and listen to the preaching. And they would preach till they got tired, and somebody else would take over. They'd preach till they got tired, and then the first one was rested again. So I've been up there at the church till 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
So, Mike, your prayer was that they got tired quick.
Right.
Okay.
And so, like I say, I started coming up here because of May, and got the feeling pretty good. So I thought that, what if I started coming up here all the time? So I was hearing, and I was believing, and then I got where I was feeling worse every Sunday when I'd leave because I didn't go down and join. And so finally I got up and went down and joined and got baptized. A whole different feeling. I've already told you my family cries at a good sandwich. So,
and this is a lot better than a good sandwich.
Yeah. So I felt a presence when I was baptized, and I still feel that presence. My family issues all solved themselves, and God answered my prayers, and my work life evened out. I got a lot of things taken care of during that time that I give credit to God and the church. I got to see some good people, and really appreciated some of the older ones that were here. I was kind of put off for a while because of the things that were said. I don't like bashing another religion. I don't like bashing somebody for what they are. That's all it is. They're what they are.
Yeah.
And maybe they just need a prayer or a helping hand or
a sandwich.
Yeah, just be there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a great group of people here when I started, and we were going along there, and then the preacher left. And he was a big part of our Christian life because he baptized me, and we had, of course, he was a Sunday school teacher and a Wednesday night, and so it kind of hurt. So we went to several other places and tried. Didn't stop going to church because that ain't got anything to do with anybody else. That's me, and so we tried several places. I just couldn't find a place that I had any roots. So we came back and went through several preachers that some of them I disagreed with. Some of them made some statements that I disagreed with and got mad and left. Finally, the Brother James came, the healer, and he was exactly the person we needed to bring us out of that. I have to say that he was probably one of the ones that boosted me. He got me back where I felt right. So
he's just such a good man.
Yeah.
I don't think what people who are new to our church or this community, they don't understand that the good things that we're enjoying right now are because of what he did. He taught us we didn't have to bash people. He taught us we could disagree well.
He just, like you said, he's a good man, and he's a good preacher. He's a good person, and that's helped me through a whole lot. Being a boss, everybody says they want to be their own boss. Well, I found out that sometimes your boss is a butthole because it was hard for me to, some of the things I had to do. I hate to fire people. you're not firing just them, you're firing the family. And that's one of my main things that I love is my family.
Yeah. And there's never a good time to do it, you know?
No. I had to do it a whole lot more than I wanted to.
Yeah.
And some people won't have it any other way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
generally, and I said this when I retired, I've never worked a day in my life because I enjoyed working, enjoyed being there, enjoyed the people I worked with for the most part, and I don't know, it was what I was meant to do, I guess.
Yeah. And you did well.
Well, I'd like to think so anyway.
Well, the water in Dixon didn't give me dysentery, so
That's right.
That's worth something.
You're not sick from it.
That's right.
I was there in a major time where we swapped from the little small utilities to the Water Authority of Dixon County. That was 2001.
And big consolidation.
The consolidations, and I had worked through that, and it was tough, but
Because there's politics and there's people and there's...
well, I never had to really, well, I'm saying this and this is not right, but never really had a lot of politics about me.
Yeah.
During that time I was on city council, so I did have, but I didn't let politics govern me, because if it was right, it was right. If it was wrong, it was wrong. I didn't care, and I always stood up for that.
Yeah.
That principle. So I stayed 20 years as a member of the council over here in Burns, and did a whole lot of things during that time that I was satisfied when I got out with what I'd accomplished or what had been accomplished while I was there.
Yeah.
I didn't accomplish them. Very, very few things you accomplish by yourself. In fact, I don't guess you accomplish anything by yourself.
I agree.
So we finally got it done anyway. And there was a lot of lumps and bumps and bruises along the way. And I kept telling them, I said, give it 5 years. And when you forget all this other stuff, then it'll work together okay.
This will be the best thing we've ever done if it doesn't kill us in the next 5 years.
A lot of people didn't realize how close we were to running out of water.
Yeah.
And drinking water. We were down to, we could produce 3.5 million a day, and we were producing 3.4. And you're only supposed to do 80% before you build on.
Gotcha.
So in 97, we started building on to it. Even though we were anticipating going in there, we had to wait long enough to,
Wow.
had to last long enough. I can remember cutting water feed on the chemicals back to try to save water. So
Wow.
a leak we couldn't have.
Yeah.
A leak had to be fixed right then.
Because if you didn't, you were in real trouble.
Well, when the tanks started dropping, you were in real trouble. So
Wow.
it worked out well. The Cumberland River plant was put online, and it was a new technology, and so it's taken a while to get it like they want it. Membrane is the future because it won't let anything pass.
So, Mike, I didn't know anything about how, you turn on a tap and magic water comes out. But I did the Leadership Dixon program a few years ago, and they took us up to that plant, and they toured it, and they showed us the membrane. And it looks like these 30-foot-long spaghetti noodles.
That's about it.
That have microscopic holes in them, and it sucks the water through them, and it filters it.
Ours is a vacuum system. They make pressure systems too, but we were afraid one of the operators would have a heart attack because when pressure comes on and hits it, it makes a loud noise and shakes, and we were afraid some of our older operators would have a coronary during that time, so we decided not to do that. But the pressure had a lot of faults with it that the vacuum didn't.
Yeah.
We went all over the country looking at them before we settled on what kind we wanted.
Well, it was so neat. And Mike, forgive me if you think I'm being kind of stupid here, because I just am. I wish you could see the looks he's giving me. But, I think water was kind of the perfect job for you, because I need to say this carefully. You work hard. You prefer to be in the background, and you could kind of be taken forgotten, but the moment you're not here, we really realize we screwed something up.
So, I appreciate that. I don't know. Like I say, I've never looked for the spotlight. I don't want. I'd rather be in the background pushing somebody else up forward. And I just, of course, it's good to hear somebody say it to you that you've done a good job or whatever. And but I don't exist on that.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's something you want to hear.
Yeah. Well, everybody likes some encouragement.
Everybody like to be encouraged or getting out of boy, but it gets to where you get too many of them.
Yeah.
You get to taking it for granted.
Or you start to believe them.
Yeah.
You know?
I try not to take anything for granted.
Yeah.
Of course, when you've had 5 heart attacks and died 2 or 3 times, it kind of takes all that big wisdom out of you, and you're just thankful you're here.
That's what I was about to ask you, because, you kind of told your story where you're, it wasn't like you hated church. It just wasn't what you're doing. And then it kind of became a thing. You talked about the peace it gave you, but the folks listening who don't know you real well don't realize just how much you've been through in the last 10 years. I don't know when it all started.
Started in 1990.
Okay. Longer than that. So
Yeah.
your heart attacks, your lungs.
Had open heart surgery in 90, and did pretty well till, of course, in 1990, open heart surgery was the answer to it. There wasn't a lot of stents, and
Right.
it was just a brand new thing. So I went up to probably 98, 97, 98, and had a little flare up, and I think it was just like a blood clot passing through. So then in 2007, I had a pretty good event, and had to go in and have, I think, 3 stents put in. And that was right after I had double knee surgery, and I was doing a rehab, and then I had a heart attack on May's birthday.
That was super considerate of
Really
you.
nice,
Yeah. Did she appreciate that birthday gift?
She did, really. And so then went to seemed like it's about every 10 years. Had a little problem in 13, but didn't amount to anything. Then, and 17 had a little problem. It didn't amount to a whole lot, but had to go into the hospital for a while. Then in 19, they put me in there to take some of the fluid off my body, and they took too much. And my potassium dropped out the bottom, and I died. And they shocked me and brought me back. That's what made me rethink my do not resuscitate order.
Yeah.
I kind of tore it up. I said, I don't want to be brought back if I want to have to live on a machine the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Me either.
But, if you can kick me in the butt or give me a shot or something, and it's going to bring me back, do it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. So you got hit by that shock. Were you awake for that, or was that a...
Yeah, I was wide awake.
Oh.
And
so what was that like?
it was like being kicked by a mule. I've been kicked by a mule, too.
I was going to say, that doesn't help me a lot.
Well, if you stood there and let me run back as far as I wanted to run and came through and hit you in the face,
Well,
that's kind of what it feels like.
you're smiling a lot while you're thinking about running and hitting you in the
It
face.
was an image.
Okay.
I've thought about it several times.
Most people have. Leslie has a club. If you'd like to join it, you have to pay dues. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
2022, I had I had a defibrillator put in. That's what I did in 2007 too, when it started. And in 17, I had to have it changed. It's a defibrillator and a pacemaker together. And back, I guess it was 2022, back in March, I believe. I'd been out working all day, come in and took a shower, and while I was standing there, I got dizzy. So I got off, started drying off, and sat down, and when the defibrillator hit me first time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hollered for May. She didn't hear me, and I started up that way, and it hit me again.
Oh,
And I said, well, I better. So I got my oxygen, which is sitting right there. I put it on, and it hit me again. Altogether 9 times.
oh no.
Once in the hospital, but that was an experience too. That's like getting kicked.
Except it's happening inside you.
Right there, yeah.
Wow.
And so I was in the hospital there for 9 days. That's 9. It seemed like it comes in nines. I was in the hospital when they had to shock me for 9 days, and I don't like hospitals. There's 2 places I have no urge to go to, and it's a hospital. I figure I'll be there soon enough anyway.
That's right.
So I had to go back. He let me go home. I said, I'm going home after 9 days. And he said, well, you really need to stay for a day or 2. I said, well, I may need to, but I'm going home.
Yeah.
And so they released me and let me go. And I had to come back the next Monday to see him. And I was sitting there, and he was looking and poking and feeling how much fluid I had on me. He said, we really need to put you in the hospital for about 3 or 4 more days. And I said, you kept me in here 9 days and damn near killed me. Why would I want to come back and be in 3 more with you? No, thank you.
What did he say to that?
He didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He's about used to me, too.
Is that the doctor with the fun name, by the way?
No.
Okay.
That was the one that, of course, that did the, I can't think, colonoscopy.
There you go.
Yeah. And he had a real name.
Yeah.
And I thought a lot about it, but I'm not going to say it.
I mean, I just tried to needle you into it. And May is sitting somewhere saying, Mike, man, you be good.
She told me before I left to try to contain myself.
Well, that's no fun.
But if I had to say one person on my trail, would be May.
Yeah. Well, tell us about her. That's okay.
Well, we've been married 53 years, and we grew up together, raised our kids together, and she never did think she was very smart. And I kept telling her, I said, you're smarter than most people, but she never had that reinforced.
Yeah.
At her, and so she's had several jobs at, she's vice president of the bank. I don't reckon they let dummies do it. I never did get to do it.
Me either.
So,
she took good care of me there.
So
they always had the same amount of money I thought they were supposed to.
That amazed me. I thought maybe we'd have a money tree or something.
Yeah, you'd think.
But no, they didn't give you one of them either.
Like a to-go bag.
And in fact, they wouldn't even loan us any money, I don't think.
Yeah.
But she worked several jobs. She worked at Walnut Street Daycare for several years. Went down there as part-time, and of course I'd worked into full-time pretty quick. She loves kids. And then later on in her professional life, she decided that, she told me, she said, I'm going to look for another job. Said, I don't want to hate my grandchildren. So she went and got her job at the bank. But all this time, she was supportive. We've had a good life.
You have. You really have. And it's funny. It seems like any time I have been at Creekwood or any of the schools around here seeing a game, I'll look over and May's cheering for somebody because y'all have a grandkid playing basically everything that could be played.
She likes sports, and she likes following the kids. That's where she is now, is meeting my youngest daughter, or as they call her, the baby. And they're going to Fayetteville, Tennessee, to watch a softball game between my niece, our team, and Fayetteville's team, for a part of be the top 4 in the state.
That's cool.
So in middle school. So She's followed them, and I've tried to follow them too, but I just don't travel much. It's a little bit too much for me. I can spend a certain amount of time closed in and told, but I can't do it for very long at a time.
Yeah.
And I go berserk. So
Well, I heard that's not a long trip, but
that's not. When you said earlier that whatever I said would be okay, I thought, well, I'm probably not going to mash a finger or anything in here. So, well, we ought to be okay.
yeah, probably.
I probably won't get hurt too bad.
Well, we'll keep a hammer away from both of us.
That's right. Well, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
I can hurt myself. I remind myself of my granddad.
Yeah.
Because he was always bleeding or skinned up somewhere. And when you get older, of course, you do that a little lot easier. But he was always doing something. And he was at home. He retired from railroad when he was probably, 50-odd years old. They had an accident that he and Miss Floyd Hall, I don't know if you knew them, Miss Mary Hall and Rebecca Wyber, their mother, and Dan's mother, excuse me. And they fell from a bridge they was working on. It was a dry riverbed at Duck River in Centerville. And it broke him all to pieces. It broke both legs, broke his pelvis, broke ribs, back, arms, everything.
Yeah.
That sudden jolt. And so he was laid up for a while. Before that, he was a crane operator. So anytime he was unloading or doing anything, he had to be there. And he was waiting for him to sidetrack this load of rails, and it turned over, and it threw rails on me. And just so happened a couple of the rails went this way, and then the rest of them piled up on top.
Oh, wow. So it didn't crush him.
So they dug him out and called my mother and my grandmother and said, you need to get up here. Doesn't look good. So they did, but he lived about 30 years after that.
Wow. So what you're telling me is, y'all's family's kind of impossible to kill.
Right. It's pretty much, at least hard to. But there's a lot of good memories. I can remember a lot of things when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what I had for lunch today. So,
yeah, that's all right.
But it...
when you were 4 was probably a lot more fun than whatever you had for lunch
a lot
today.
more fun. But we went to, he was in Centerville, and I was amazed by the bags of sand that had hanging. They had casts and pieces on him and pulling them apart, pulling them back together and all that. And I was...
So he was in traction, kind of.
Yeah, what they do now without the sandbag.
Yeah.
And so it was about Christmas time, and I was always singing and whistling and carrying on. So we went to see him, and about halfway down there, Daddy turned around and he said, I've heard Silent Night about enough.
He didn't want to hear it.
He didn't want to hear it no more. I done sung it 4 or 5 times. I knew it.
Yeah.
But Daddy worked in Nashville all those years, and didn't like the place he worked, didn't like the people he worked with, but he had to have a job. I did basically the same thing, worked 2 and 3 jobs, hauled hay, did a little bit of everything. And and somebody told me one time, said, if you're having to work more than one job to make a living, you're in the wrong profession.
Well, there's some truth in that.
I'd have to agree. So I started going a little bit deeper, trying to, I was a pressman, offset pressman, printing pressman, and finally worked through my apprenticeship and got to be a pressman and decided to quit. And I was making decent money then.
Yeah.
But I took about a $7 an hour cut to go to Turnbull to work in the water plant. And it's the best move I ever made.
That set up the whole rest of your career.
It did. Plus peace.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like somebody opened a drain on my foot and let all the bad stuff out.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I was hard to live with. Because like I say, I was just like him. I hated my job.
Yeah.
I hated the people I worked with. I hated having to drive to Nashville every day. So.
Yeah.
And I've told several people I'd pick up cans alongside the road before I'd work Nashville again.
Yeah. Oh, and it's gotten so much worse the way the commute has gotten.
At that time, they didn't even have the interstate through Nashville.
Yeah.
When I was working up there, you had to get off 46th Avenue and drive across town. So by the time I quit, they finished all that.
It got better once you got done.
Yeah. Once I left, I guess they figured they'd do it.
I remember Jeff Coons used to tell stories growing up around there, around 46th, when they were building 40 through there, that they'd go up after school and ride their bikes on what the interstate, what was going to become the interstate.
The roadbed.
And that image just kind of breaks my brain, because it's an impossible thing to imagine now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many cars up and down that highway every day, but it's just having to go back and forth to doctor's visits. It bothers me. Am I boring you?
I just yawned because I hit my afternoon nap. What's something you wished you'd learned in your life earlier?
I guess the main thing I wish I'd learned is how to control myself, how to be at peace with myself.
Yeah.
I have had a terrible temper at one time. My grandson just bought our other house over there, and May was pointing out the holes in the walls where I'd had to patch them, where I'd hit them, kicked them, and head-butted one through.
Well, that's impressive.
And and then on the door facing, there's no door, and there's just a cased opening. You can see the knuckle marks on that board going up and down through a 6-inch wide board. And I'd go through there, and I don't know how I kept them breaking in hand.
Yeah.
But I would go through there and punch that. And, of course, I always told May, I said, and I'm going to go like Jackie Gleason. One of these days, it's going to be pow to the moon. We got into it one afternoon. We were in the back house, and I finally learned to turn around and leave. So I turned around. Of course, she didn't. She just followed right along behind me. So when I got to that door, I picked her up by the lapel, and I held her up against the wall, and I said, I'm walking away to get away from you. Stay right here.
Yeah.
And shut up. And that lasted till her feet hit the floor.
Yeah.
And so I just ran out the door, got away. So
I have a picture of her chasing you that I'm kind of enjoying.
No, she didn't. She knew I was going to have to come home.
Yeah.
If I wanted some to eat.
That's right. She had you at the end of the day.
She had me right there. So, but I can't complain about May at all. And it's kind of like I said about Randy. If I've got one point for me in heaven, it's Randy.
He's a good man.
I was, I guess, was it Sunday we were in Florida, I guess. Randy was doing, I don't think he was doing the prayer. I think he must have been doing something else. But anyway, he was up there, and of course, I was down in Florida all big. He made me cry. He said, I'd often said that my granddad was the best man I'd ever been around, and I would wish I could be half the man that he was. And he said, I wonder if somebody will say that about me. And it's something you think about, what they remember you for. And I hope they forgot all the bad stuff and remember me for the few good times I've done.
Mike, I have never been with you and haven't had fun.
Well, I think, God's got a sense of humor. Look at me and you.
That's right. Now I am sitting far enough away you can't hit me from there.
With what?
Anything you're carrying, Randy, we haven't done one of these episodes with Randy yet. We need to.
I can't listen to it.
Yeah.
I listen to Marshall's, and I listen to Mac Adams. While I was away from church, I was watching church, so I'm awful glad that we've got that program, so can bring it to people that don't feel like they can get out. Like I say, I've got COPD, CKD, chronic kidney disease. My lungs are bad, and my heart's bad, and so I have to be real careful about who I'm around and what I'm around.
Yeah.
Especially up until the last few weeks that I've been coming back.
The wintertime is super tough.
Wintertime and real summertime is tough.
Yeah, 'cause it gets so hot you can't breathe.
Yeah. Right now I've been out mowing, bush hogging, and I can't breathe for all the...
Well, there's pollen in the air and there is oxygen.
And dust. I did wait till after it rained to bush hog so I wouldn't get to
quite as much. But man, I did a dumb thing the other day. My contact got a little pollen in it, so I took my contact out and I tried to put it back in. Then I dropped it, and I was at Montgomery Bell.
Oh.
So I tried to wash it off with a water bottle, which isn't real smart to start with, but that knocked it onto the ground. So I ended up trying to go on a trail run with just one eye. Looked like like an idiot pirate running through the park. I thought somebody's going to call the police on this drunk guy going through here. Leslie just laughing. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I feel like it's important to have fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to be kind of downtrodden and not, but I'm pretty satisfied.
And I don't want to push on this too hard, but with all the health stuff you've gone through, it would be easy for a person not to be satisfied.
Yeah.
Because you have been a worker and a doer your whole life. You're the guy who's the manager of water authority, and you're down in the ditch. You're talking about bush hogging. How do you think you've managed to hang on to peace when you haven't been able to do the things that you want to do?
Probably my faith.
Yeah.
And I'm not a great big, and I love to hear the praying and all, but I like the private prayer. And I probably pray 8 or 10 times a day. It's not very long. Thank you, Lord, or please, Lord, help me. Give me strength. Please, Lord, watch over my kids. So far, he's answered yes. So I've done a lot of it. Done a lot I needed to have prayed for, but never been too bad a person. I've made some bad decisions.
Who hasn't?
And I hope I've recovered from them pretty well. But there's always room for improvement. And like I say, I'm not a big vocal proponent, but I worship in my way.
Yeah.
And I like it up here because nobody's trying to force me to do it in any other way.
Yeah.
And I hadn't so far. And there's a lot of things that I don't have to kind of worry about that we don't talk about up here, and that I don't think there's any need to, because a lot of people on about divorce or whatever. There's times you got to cut your losses.
Yeah.
And I really don't think that has anything to do with a person.
Well, you said earlier, you are who you are.
Yeah.
And we just need to deal with who you are, not who we wish you were.
You're going to stumble through life one way or the other. And that's what it is stumbling all the way through. Sometimes you catch yourself. Sometimes you're running. Sometimes you're falling.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're crying. Sometimes you're, I guess that's the reason I always liked, I guess my favorite Bible verse was chapter 13, Corinthians.
Yes.
It's kind of a plan for life.
Yeah.
Marriage, just for life in general. So, faith, love, and hope, and above all others, love.
If you can't get anything else right, Try real hard to get that one right.
You got to get it right before anything else will come. And when I first started coming up here, they told me, and I had never been a terribly, I believed, but I didn't know how to believe, I guess.
Yeah.
But when they told me you know, use God, your family, and your job, and all these other things, I thought, I can't hardly do that against my family. But I figured out, you know, if you got God on your side, then you're going to love your family. You don't have any choice.
The best way to be a decent dad and a decent husband is to be a God follower.
That's right.
You know.
And I give him the credit for anything good I've ever done.
Yeah.
And I always tried to follow Jesus through here. Kind of tough sometimes, but I also realize it's 2,000 years afterwards. So
what that looks like looks a little different than it did.
Yeah, it does. You know, that's what somebody said about. They was talking about us eating in the church, and I said, well, not really, but I said, I guess you could say that, but I said, we're not meeting out under a tree.
Yeah.
So I said, you know, and it doesn't say that. It says don't come to church hungry.
Yeah.
And that's what it means to, you know, you're not going to have your feast like you're talking about.
At 1 Corinthians 11 things, people who are fussing and fighting with each other, not having lunch because they like each other, you know?
Yeah.
It was something different, but
there's a lot of.
But people love to find stuff to argue about.
Yeah.
It's just like politics. It's just like sports. We got to find our way and try to convince everybody else that we figured it out and the world would be perfect if they disagree with us.
Brother Glenn was always too deep for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and, you know, I'm not saying this against him. I'm glad he's like that, but he taught a class on Revelations once, and he, I guess, got down to my level on it. Yeah. And I understood finally. And I'd read it and read it and read it and read it and read it. And I wasn't coming away with anything.
Tough book.
It is. It's, and from start to finish. And so I finally realized this was his dream or his thought process.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes it a little easier to hide. You get up to that last one and you think, well, wait a minute, all this other stuff's been in vain then. But it, you know, starting out all the way through is, I'm not big on memorizing verses. I'm not that smart. I'm not a smart man.
I wouldn't go that far. I'd say something way meaner. I'll call Marshall Sullivan and he'll tell us what to say.
Yeah. He'll lay out a 3-letter word. But I always got tickled about people that say they're not. You know, my grandson, when he was about 3 years old, was out in the yard playing with my other grandson, his same age, and he was jumping in front of him. Had a little electric gator. He was jumping out in front of him and jumping out of the way. You know, well, his foot slipped, and the other grandson just ran over him.
Yeah,
and he tuned up and just walked over to his daddy, and his daddy looked at him and said, nah, what did I tell you about that? He said, if you're going to be stupid, you got to be tough. So I've always kind of thought that way. I must be awful stupid.
Because God sure seemed to make you tough.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's some truth to that.
I've made enough mistakes in my life that I'm terribly lucky. I don't know how much it's luck or just the plan for me. I feel like you got something else in plan and coming to me.
Yeah.
Or he wouldn't have kept me around.
Well, Mike, this has been fun.
I've enjoyed it better than I thought it would.
We'll see if the people who listen to it say the same.
Well, they may shut it off.
You never know.
No.
Well, the good thing is they don't pay by the minute, so it's all right either way.
I mean, this doesn't pay?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Well.
We make bad life choices.
Disappointed again.
Well, I think I got a mint in one of my desk drawers if you really need some compensation.
That'll work.
Okay. Here's a half-drunk water bottle.
No, thank you.
Is there another story you'd like to tell before we wrap up? Anything else?
There's a lot of stories, but I don't think I want to tell them.
Well, I can appreciate that. Mike, thanks so much for being with us today. And friends, thank you so much for listening. And next time, I can't wait to hear what God's up to in your story.
Thanks for listening to Rough Drafts. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review. Until next time, let's keep looking for how God writes His love into our stories.